So much has happened since Formula One was packed away in Adelaide in November. Now, as the boxes are reopened here in Kyalami, so much remains unclear. The world champion is not here to defend his title. How much the sport is going to miss Nigel Mansell will become apparent over the next few months. How much the gap has closed between Williams and the rest, that remains to be seen. But perhaps most importantly, can the Formula One rule makers persuade the sport that this headlong, high-cost rush for technology is wrong? Well, more on that in a moment, but first the one question mark that has been removed. Ayrton Senna will definitely line up for McLaren on the grid on Sunday. An impressive test session last week in the new car convinced him of the team's potential. He made his mind up on Monday. He arrived here this morning, and he talked to us about his winter of indecision.
I was doing well. I was doing really well. I was not missing driving or racing. And then some people start to phone me up and talk to me every week or so, a couple of times, and slowly got me back into it, in the frame of thinking about it and considering it and thinking how could things work out, when and where, you know, all sort of things, and to finally, you know, having to make a decision to go to England to see what was there, not knowing really what to expect, but just I had to see with my own eyes. I feel if I was left alone, I probably would have made through. Of course, impossible to know or to say with 100% sure, but that's my personal feeling. However, I think we made a decision, and we were able to put together something, and we came to South Africa.
The commitment to drive, it's a season-long commitment?
I would like to. I would like to drive the full season. At the moment, that is not clear. At the moment, that has not been achieved, I must say. But
something you wish?
Well, there is the will. The will is there from my end, and I think from the team too. It's just circumstances are not helping the situation, and therefore we are hard trying to find ways. And given that we ran out of time before South Africa, we had to compromise.
So Ayrton Senna's plans remaining a little unclear for the rest of the season, but at least he's here for the all-important start on Sunday.
And it's go, and Mansell's got away extremely well as they go up to the first right-hander. And sure enough, it's
the season will start once again with this high-speed swoop down off the Kyalami start line. But a year ago, both the race and indeed the championship season were all over by here. The first bend, Nigel Mansell ahead, Riccardo Patrese into second, and the all-too-familiar pattern of a Williams-dominated season was set. But now the Formula One rule makers are determined that never again should such a high-cost season be so totally dominated by one team.
From 1994, there's a ban on the computer influence, the traction control, semi-automatic gearboxes and active suspension. For this season, there'll be limitations on tyres and the use of a spare car. And the governing body will also cut down on time spent qualifying. The man who's prompted the changes is the president of motorsport's governing body, Max Mosley.
Well, there are two things. There's one immediate, which is the fact that because of the general economic situation worldwide, which does affect Formula One, there's less money available. That's an immediate thing. And then there's a longer-term thing, which is it's become clear that more and more of the drivers' functions were being taken over by computers, and it was only going to be another year or two or three at the most before virtually all the drivers' functions would be taken over. And that raises, of course, very serious questions about what we're trying to do. It is supposed to be a drivers' championship.
Motor racing isn't immune from the recession, and the recession isn't unique to England. It's covering the whole world. And, of course, we're very sensitive to the effects that it's having on the smaller teams. And we are quite happy to adopt change, but I think that, that can help. But I think it has to be change that's well conceived and based on a balanced perspective, which I believe these aren't.
It's the likes of McLaren and Williams at the forefront of both invention and investment who will suffer most. They're obliged to accept the rules, but don't expect them to support the philosophy.
I think it may have some temporary effect of bringing the more advanced teams down to the technology levels that are currently being exploited by the middle of the field cars, but it would only be short-lived. I mean, the dominant teams are always going to be dominant. If you take away this advantage, then we'll quickly find another. That's the nature of the beast. We are technology-led, we're competitive, and we're very focused on winning. So whatever effect these changes have on our ability to be competitive, I believe are going to be quite short-lived.
What sort of sympathy do you have for the position of the likes of Ron Dennis at McLaren and Frank Williams as well, who have prided themselves and achieved a great deal in precisely the directions that you're now moving away from?
Well, a lot of sympathy, because the other side of this is that it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, the devices which stabilize the car in the corner detect if it's breaking away and starting to slide and correct before the driver's even aware of it. Devices which operate the car in the same way that, say, an F-16 fighter is operated. You can run it in an unstable condition where no human being can keep control of it, with the computer keeping the control and you just doing the overall direction. The technology for that is absolutely fascinating, there's no doubt about it, but it has two huge problems. One is that it takes away from the driver, and essentially it's a driver's championship, and the other is that the costs at the moment are not that dramatic. They can be contained by a top team, but the potential is explosive. It can just go into an exponential expansion, and you would end up with needing the resources of Boeing or NASA in order to keep the thing going.
As the forceful approach of Max Mosley attempts to bring Formula One back towards reality, many of the drivers this week have suspended reality at the extraordinary Lost City Resort, 2 hours north of Kyalami. This, for example, is the relaxed way that Damon Hill has started the most important week of his racing career. Nigel Mansell's replacement at Williams has been out on the golf course as well, in opposition to the new all-British Ligier pairing of Mark Blundell and Martin Brundle. Almost to a man, the drivers are saying, halt the technology and give the sport back to the man behind the wheel.
Well, I have to say, I've been around Grand Prix racing now for about 9 seasons, and the car, there's too many computers on board the car, too many people sitting back in the pits, contributing to every aspect of what you do. It's fantastic, it's very impressive, but is that really where we want to be in the future? I don't think so. I'm very happy with the regulations. I'm very happy that somebody's doing something at least positive to bring it back as a sportsman's sport. And you know, they're going to make some mistakes, but they're doing something about it.
You could argue that if you don't have to concentrate on changing a gear, you could concentrate more on going more precise in a corner or faster through a corner. So some of your possibilities can be concentrated in different areas. On the other hand, you could say that, you know, part of a racing driver is to shift gears too, or to control a little bit more the suspension movements on the car, how to set up and so on. Different ways of looking at it and different point of views.
Saying that the cars today are, the driver doesn't need to do any work, or they are controlled completely by the electronic is completely wrong. That is not the case. But reduce the technology of the cars, I think is a good idea anyway, because we may go a bit too far. But we should not forget, maybe the racetracks and all small things that we can improve. So not focalize on only one subject and forget all the others.
These new regulations for '93 with the practice sessions being reduced in a positive way. I think they will make life more difficult to drivers and the teams, in order that if you make a mistake, you compromise your how they work and your performance. So you gotta be consistent, steady, knowing very well what you're doing, in order to be at the circuit at the right moment to set the fast time. So I like this concept. Not everyone shares that view, but I personally like that concept.
So Formula One has taken a fundamental change of direction, and at Kyalami on Sunday the racing will start again, and no one is more enthusiastic than the man taking the sport into its new era.
To see whether Hill or Prost is quickest, to see whether Schumacher is going to be maybe quicker than both of them sometimes, to see if McLaren have got back onto form, to see if perhaps in the medium term, later in the season, Ferrari suddenly get it all together again with Alessi as a very quick driver. I think it's seldom been more interesting at the beginning.
This was desert barely 18 months ago. Now, with its five-star hotels, artificial seashore and fake jungle splendor, it's the perfect environment to acclimatize to the fantasy world of Formula One. Damon Hill has adjusted very readily from the grind of the test driver to the glamour of the race driver, and he has a supporting cast of 4 other British drivers in Formula One this year, including the Ligier teammates, Brundle and Blundell. Most would leave it to the last minute before heading for the season's opening venue. Kyalami is tight, passing places are at a premium, it's hot and dusty. As for competition, Formula One is keen to play down the rivalry, but we've now got Senna as well as Prost. The two men are as competitive as ever, and there's no ignoring history.
It's happened. Alain Prost has taken the advantage. Senna is trying to go through on the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing. Senna goes off at the first corner, but what has happened to Prost? He has gone off too.
Into 93, we've got Prost outspoken, facing a possible ban. Senna seeing Prost as having blocked his path to a Williams drive. But Formula One needs them badly.
Prost is coming back in let's say, in the slipstream of Mansell. He got everything ready for him and had only to adjust himself to what was there.
I did not talk to him during the winter. Just left a very nice message a few weeks ago, saying that if he would be very happy to replace me for 1 or 2 races if I have a problem with the federation. But that was good, because then I thought, oh, then he got back the sense of humor. So it's maybe we are going to talk each other again.
If Prost survives a ban, his combination with Damon Hill has an enduring feel about it. Hill, the test driver, now the race driver.
It's absolutely the sharp end of everything I've ever done, and I'm very keen to devote 100% to it and come away from this weekend satisfied that I've got a job well done.
The other headline maker is almost certainly going to be Michael Schumacher. Only his second full season for Benetton, but he's a Grand Prix winner and potentially the quickest man in the sport.
I think I can start, especially this season, a lot easier, with a lot more self-confidence compared to last year. I think this we will see this in the end of the results as well.
So the contenders in detail. The world champions, Williams, Damon Hill carrying the number 0 instead of Mansell's number 1. In terms of technology, still the most advanced and likely to have better reliability than the opposition. But if that opposition is strong, the driver combination may lack aggression. Prost knows Formula One inside out. He may need some help with his golf swing, but he's the title favourite. As for Hill, well, he needs a few more laps of the golf course, but after the thousands of testing laps he's put in, he knows the car inside out and must now add the experience of Grand Prix racecraft.
We have a good, very good relation at the moment, and I really think that's going to be the same during the year. I try to help him when I can. He helped me quite a lot during the winter, because we were testing almost all the time together, and he has more experience with the car. We had more experience during the winter with the car, and we had a good discussion, technical discussion, We had a round of golf this week, and we start to build a relationship. I don't like the wrong relationship, you know. I would like to have something good, and you don't need to be friends, but you need to work well with a teammate, and if you are a friend, that's good, but don't try to be friends too soon. But I like them, and I like his character. I like the way he drives and the way he works with the team, and I don't think it should be any problem.
I've got a lot of learning to do. I've only done 2 Grand Prix, so in that respect I've got an awful lot of learning to do, but I feel good about myself and about my driving, and what will be in that respect. I'm going to give it 100%, and I'm going to be very keen to actually prove that I'm top-notch.
For McLaren, it's enter American Michael Andretti, the IndyCar star needing to ease his way into Grand Prix racing in the same manner as Hill. But McLaren's driver lineup is not quite this straightforward, because also named by McLaren is Mika Häkkinen, having been enticed from Lotus, then having looked very impressive in testing, but now finding himself without a drive in the South African Grand Prix. He's edged out by Senna, whose decision to drive came late. It's only a 1-race deal, and there'll be some serious contract negotiations at McLaren on Monday. But he's still plainly a big attraction. Senna was prepared to sit out the season and admits that he's not enthusiastic about all aspects of Formula One.
Well, I love driving. That's, you know, any time of my life has been my main activity, and I don't miss testing. I don't miss the paddock and so on. What I miss is really competing only. If it was achievable for me, the ideal situation would be to come on Sunday morning to the race circuit from home, get into the car, you know, have a half an hour to check everything up, and then going for the race for the hour and a half, 2 hours. That would be the ideal thing.
Williams and McLaren will set the pace, but Benetton, with Riccardo Patrese and Michael Schumacher, will be in hot pursuit. Patrese, the most experienced man in Formula One, but his German teammate has the sport's most exciting potential and relishes a 3-way battle with Prost and Senna.
Well, I think that's really fantastic. We need to have these kind of drivers in Formula One because we need to have the heroes. They make Formula One popular, I believe, and Formula One is entertainment. So I think this year we get a really fantastic season with a lot of fightings and with a lot of entertainment.
Formula One also needs teams like Ferrari, but this week's indications are that they may struggle again. Berger returns to offer support to the frustrated Alesi. Look out for Leto in the striking Sauber, via which Mercedes make a discreet return to Formula One. Lotus haven't entered the season with such confidence for a long time. Zanardi, the Italian teammate for Britain's Johnny Herbert. And he's in a car that has caught up with the technology at the front of the field. If it all works, then Johnny Herbert is set to enjoy the last season of computers in Formula One.
There's been a lot of talk about active suspension, and the automatic gearboxes have taken away the driving aspect, but I haven't felt myself that I've been controlled by a remote control or someone with a remote control in the pits, you know, telling the car when to turn. You know, we still have to turn the car, we still have to brake, and we still have to change the gears. The only thing that active suspension has done and semi-automatic gearboxes, they've made the cars quicker.
Ligier with Renault engines have the tradition of being virtually a French national team, but it's an all-British lineup. Martin Brundle, Mark Blundell.
It's a little bit different for them to have 2 English drivers aboard, the first time in the history of the team. Public and press, not too sure about. The public we speak to, yeah, they love it, but at the moment the press are giving us a little bit of a difficult time. Hopefully we'll get some results in the bag that will turn that opinion round.
Well, I think we work better together probably than any other partnership in Grand Prix racing, and that's very successful. Obviously, as soon as the green light comes on a Sunday afternoon, we're at each other's throats. That's natural, but we're a bit smarter than that. We work closely together up to that point because, you know, Formula One is hard enough without fighting your teammate. So, and that's very productive.
The other British driver in Formula One is the most experienced and perhaps the most popular, Derek Warwick. Returning from sports cars, where he became world champion last season, Warwick is back with footwork, back for what's likely to be one last challenge in the Grand Prix arena.
When you come back, you realise just how big an event Formula One is. You know, 2 years of sports cars have been great, you know, and I've had a good year last year with Peugeot. But we're talking different levels here, you know. This is the pinnacle of motorsport.
And the long battle to the pinnacle of the sport. The Formula One World Championship starts at Kyalami tomorrow. Derek Warwick found it tough today, just making it in 22nd position. But here's Murray Walker with full details of today's final qualifying.
I cannot start to tell you how delighted and excited I am that it looks as though the excitement, the drama and the sheer competition is back in Grand Prix racing. Because here at Kyalami, we've just seen a truly exciting final qualifying session. First of all, Prost was in pole position, then Senna, then Prost, then Senna, and then right at the end, Prost again. And the little Frenchman, back in Grand Prix racing in the Williams Renault, is in pole position for tomorrow's race, just 9/100ths of a second faster than Ayrton Senna. With Michael Schumacher third, 1.5 seconds behind the previous two. Damon Hill still an excellent fourth. Alesi is fifth in the Ferrari, and that's good. And even better is JJ Lehto's sixth position on the grid in the new Sauber. Of the British drivers, Mark Blundell is 8th, Martin Brundle is 12th, Johnny Herbert is 17th, Derek Warwick is 22nd, and I promise you, tomorrow's South African Grand Prix is going to be something to see.